Okay, here we go. So, hi everyone. I'm Paul from Refocus Coaching. I help dads in business to increase their energy levels, improve their health, and lose excess body fat through nutrition and mindset coaching. Thank you for watching live. If you are here with us, then please give us a thumbs up or drop us a comment to say hi. And today I am joined by Shaun Thompson. Please introduce yourself and tell us who you help, what you do.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I love what you're doing here. Being a dad myself, it kind of resonated a lot. And I think not even just dads, but just parents, it's a great opportunity to help each other. So yeah, the behavior change coaches is my title. It's an evolution. I call it an evolution from personal training. It was actually lockdown where everyone was jumping around with Joe Wicks doing their exercises. I did one as well, but I would offer a free call to somebody that joined me live, and the feedback that I was getting from these coaching calls, which I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, was incredible. It was just so different to the feedback that you got from personal training. And as time went on, I realized with my own journey and seeing clients, and it all kind of clicked together, that people don't need, not everybody needs another workout or another diet. There's something deeper that's going on, not necessarily in a kind of a scary way. It can be just very basic stuff, but stress, hydration, sleep, under eating the wrong foods. There's always a reason why people are stuck and struggling, and we often plaster over the burst pipe approach with it. And what I do now with the behavior change coaching is I look for that root cause. I help people find what it actually is, and then we can start building up a stronger foundation that then they don't, if they want to go to the gym, that's great, but they're not doing it to lose weight or anything anymore. They're doing it for completely different reasons because they've actually found out what is going on. So the human behavior, psychology, habit side, it fascinates me now. Absolutely fascinates me.
Yeah, I'm actually on a similar journey because obviously I'm coaching people as well, and they come with a goal, but there's always something behind that. So I love that thing that you've been on, sort of digging a bit deeper, finding the real reasons for things, and then really addressing that instead. And then so much more comes out of it. It's a really fun endeavor and really rewarding as well, isn't it? So yeah, I can see I find passionate as well,
Yeah, I love it. And I find goal setting really interesting because I think that's an area where a lot of people go wrong as well. Is they might have a goal which feels exciting, but I think a lot of people fail because of their goals, because it isn't deep enough. A lot of people play on the surface, and what I say is like weight loss goals, for instance, are on a similar level of like, well, I need to go to the shop and get milk. It can wait for tomorrow. It's not essential. And that's how the brain works as well. When we actually go into, and when I say deeper, I'm not, you see a lot of people talk, I don't know the terminology, but they talk, like people sometimes think it's like voodoo and, and strange to talk that way. When I say deeper, it's just challenging that thought process of like weight loss, or what your goal is, and just challenging it a little bit more and getting to the point where actually you do get excited about what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for the intro, and thanks for joining me today on this chat. So I set these chats up with dads specifically because that's the audience I like to serve and like to work with, and it's to kind of talk about how a dad who's someone particularly as busy as you, supporting lots of other people, got your family commitments, and running a business and trying to grow a business as well, how the heck you stay sane, and how do you manage your health and your energy levels and all that sort of thing. So, from your sort of experience over the last couple of years, and certainly, like you said, from coming through lockdown and coming out the other side of that with this new way of working, what sort of challenges have you had? What hurdles have you had to overcome yourself that you've really had to take a little bit of time and effort on?
Yeah, and this is the big part of why I wanted to come onto it, because as of January this year, I had a big change. Lockdown was obviously big, but we had free time. We had time to look after ourselves. Some people chose not to. Some people chose to, but I was one that I did. I was doing the exercise. But this year, my wife went back to work full time for the first time in like 6-7 years, obviously because of the two boys. And what came with that was I had to I had to adapt my schedule slightly and step up more to be on the school runs, be around for the boys, to make them dinner after school, which is great because my 13 years in this industry and the work that I've done has allowed me to do that. But with it came a tighter schedule. And I think, it's easy for me to say kind of what I've done now, but a lot of it, and what a lot of people forget, is the work that you do consistently. So all of that stuff that I've done 13 years ago, 12 years ago, 11 years ago, has put me in a position to be able to do this. So like, yes, back then I was training twice a day. I had no kids. I was at the gym all day. It was just easy. Can I do that now? Yes, I could do that now, but it would be selfish, unnecessary. There's just no reason for it. I think the biggest thing for me this year was coming across, maybe not this year, last year, but coming across the Blue Zoners. Have you heard of the Blue Zoners?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a huge shift for me because I was doing that kind of stuff. So the Blue Zoners is that highest centurion survival rate places in the world. They just live a basic lifestyle, happy lifestyle. They live the longest. And I was doing that stuff. Like I was moving actively. I got a dog, so we were walking the dog, and I like to join in with the boys. If the boys say, yes, can we play football? I want to play football. I try and move as much as possible through my days. And I think understanding how the Blue Zoners live, where they don't go to the gym, they just have an active job, an active lifestyle, actually able to me to reduce my guilt, stress, and friction of not prioritizing a workout, because I gave credit to what I was doing, which was not eating Pizza Hut every night. I was averaging 11, 12,000 steps a day, let alone, picking up the kids or carrying stuff, housework. Yeah. I do find a lot of people don't give credit to their days, and they put a lot of emphasis on 1 hour of a sweaty session and completely forget that hanging out the washing is an activity. Making the bed is an activity. Carrying stuff around at work, or again, we're both PTs, so we're picking up weights, putting them down, demoing exercises. It all adds up. And I think coming across the Blue Zoners was more mentally rewarding, so I wasn't beating myself up enough, and I started to give credit to the work, which was then it was a feel good factor.
No, I agree completely, because like you said, all of that moving around through the day and all the activities that you do during a normal day accounts for most of your energy output anyway. And like you said, most people sort of either don't think about that or just don't even realize that that's what's happening. They think that their energy output comes from an activity that they've purposely gone and done, when that's just not the case. And oftentimes, when we're dealing with fat loss, as we both do as well, to help some people, is just moving a bit more through the day is actually really beneficial. And it doesn't have to be a huge taxing event or take up loads of time. It can just be as simple as being aware and just moving a little bit more and getting involved in those activities that you might not recognize. So that's fascinating. I want to go back to what you said. So obviously you've been in the industry for quite a long time, and you spent that bit of time working, on yourself, and you had the ability to train and so on. Do you feel like that time, because of that investment, that's helped you now to sort of set like a base level of routine and habits and maybe some sort of mindset?
I'm very open about my journey. I was never obese, but I struggled with weight through my whole career. For anyone who doesn't know, I played ice hockey professionally from the age of 16, and I struggled with my weight. One season I'd be super lean, and then the next season I'd be heavily overweight, and I was stuck in the yo-yo cycle. Just didn't understand anything. And just through my own coach, I was my worst client. Let's put it like, I probably still am my toughest client. I'm fantastic with other people, and it's very easy to kind of put yourself afterwards. When I love what I do and I want my clients to get results, it's very easy to sometimes forget about myself. But I think with everything I've learned about habits, and like I said, baseline now is I'll have 3 meals a day. Baseline 8 years ago, I was eating large pizzas, share bags of chocolates, Haribos, full packs of Haribos. Like, the baseline is so different now. And obviously I'm not burning as much calories. So naturally, you know, your body will adapt. Obviously some people don't, but naturally you'll change. Your body doesn't want to necessarily overconsume. It needs what it needs. But it does. And the thing is I knew this phase of this, it was sort of like 9 months. I knew this phase wasn't going to last forever. So as we were just saying before we came on, over the next 2 weeks, my diary is going to change and it's going to adapt to a point where I am going to have more time for myself, and I am going to prioritize working out again, not for weight loss, not for fat loss, but to keep athletic, to keep strong, so that I can still have fun with the boys and I can still want to enjoy life. But over those 9 months, I've sustained that level without having a solid workout schedule.
Yeah. No, that's good. And it just goes to show that if you do put that groundwork in, it's often easier to then get through a period of time where you can't necessarily put, you know, constant effort into that one thing, but you can just sort of maintain where you're at. And I think that's a really important point to get across to anyone, especially if they're at the start of a journey and maybe feeling like they're not quite where they want to be. Is that, yes, there's an element of work and effort required at the beginning to maybe get back into the routines and get that energy going again. But once you get into that sort of flow and that routine, it's then easier to maintain. So if you have a week or 2 or 3 where you're not quite on it, it's not the end of the world, and you can step back into that routine and you'll quickly get back to where you were because you sort of laid a bit of those foundations already.
That's one thing I found fascinating, actually. Since I finished playing hockey, my heaviest deadlift at the time was around 200, just over 200 kilos. I've been retired now 4 or 5 years. I haven't tested to that level and I haven't really pushed, but there's been phases where I've deadlifted and I've comfortably deadlifted without, again, that was a 1 rep max. I've comfortably deadlifted 3 to 5 reps at around 160, 170 without a serious training schedule or a desire to push. Yeah. So one thing I was fascinated about is, you know, when you just think you're going to lose everything, if you keep a active lifestyle, you know, you're squatting down in the days and you're playing with the kids and running around and climbing on things, it's amazing what you can keep, even if you're not really pushing hard. You know, I used to train in the gym in the off season 5-6 times a week, hard. I mean, the in season, I'd 2-3 times, 2 on ice, 2 games. It was quite intense for, you know, my latter part of the career. It was semi-pro, but I was still training like a pro. But that work has all allowed me to do this. I didn't start from nothing. I started from a good, strong foundation. I just didn't realize what I was doing and how it would benefit at the time.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I mean, I came into this business, the business of health and fitness, quite late. And so I didn't have, you know, I wasn't a professional athlete or even I wouldn't call myself an athlete at all, to be honest. But even coming into it late, you know, I spent probably my 40s working really hard on gaining some strength, gaining mobility, gaining some power, starting to feel good and feel the benefits from that. And even just that period of time, probably 8 years or so, is enough to lay a rock solid foundation. And I can now go, you know, I train regularly because, like you, I enjoy the benefits of it. I enjoy feeling strong. I enjoy having good posture. I enjoy the mobility and being able to keep up with the kids and so on. But if I have a period, even like a month, without training with a structured, progressive kind of training session, it doesn't really matter. When I get back into the gym, it's kind of just there, and you very quickly can get back. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that maintaining it once you've got it is actually relatively straightforward. Despite, you know, maybe it's a push at the start, but once you get to a certain level, you can maintain it relatively easily. So I think it's really important.
Muscle memory doesn't go away. I guess if we look at it like swimming or cycling, most of us might have not done it for years, yet you jump on a bike, you wobble for a second, and then off you go. You know, same with swimming. You might not swim forever, but you'd go in the water and you start swimming. We do have that same sort of muscle memory with sport or even just lifting in the gym. I always say it's the way I describe it is just shaking off the rust. Your first 1 or 2 sessions back, you might think like you've lost it, but give it 1 or 2 sessions and you'll be back. Not necessarily, depends how long the break is, but you'll be back to a level of you know how to deadlift, you know how to lat pull down and stuff like that. You just, the muscle memory will be there, but it, like you said, it's putting in that foundational work. It's really worthwhile, because you do build up a really good base that, like I said, if life changes or you have to slow down for different reasons, things happen with families, things happen in business. It does happen. Yet most people will eliminate rather than simplify. And that's the biggest difference, is if you simplify, you can keep a base level. If you eliminate, that's when things can start to go wrong, because it shifts your mindset massively when you do that.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I love what you said as well about sort of shaking off the rust and that muscle memory. On a weekend, I do a fitness session with a group of dads, and it's become a really nice group, and there's a whole lot of benefits aside from the fitness bit. And on the weekend just gone, I introduced a new exercise, and it was really simple. It's just a little line of cones on the floor, and I was just getting them to jump over them, hopping backwards and forwards. And boy, did we have a laugh. It was brilliant. It was like kind of like regressing back to being a kid, just jumping about. And everybody was giggling and laughing, and sort of, it was really good. And it kind of made me think, when we're kids, we climb, we run, we chase, we have all these great games and activities we do. And then when we get to an adult, we sort of stop doing that. And I think that's missing a little bit.
Isn't that fascinating? Because I did ask this. I'm on Threads as well, so it's that short form content. And I asked the question the other day. I said, when we get older, people go for runs. They go for endurance runs, marathons and triathlons and stuff like that. But I said, when we're in a life-threatening scenario, which can happen, hopefully it never does, but it can. In those moments where we need to be at our best, at our most athletic, we need to be reactive. We need to be quick. We need to be fast.
Yeah.
So that's speed training, right? That's plyometrics, kind of what you were doing, power training, sprinting, just reaction training, juggling, or, reacting to different colored lights and stuff. How come what we should be doing as adults, being more reactive, and we do less of?
Yeah.
And that bit, and I put that to, I don't recall kind of what feedback that I got, but it was just racking my brain that, when we need to be at our best, just going for long distance runs doesn't really cover what, unless we're doing like a Forrest Gump and running away from all of our troubles, it isn't what we need. We ultimately need to be more athletic, not athletes, not trying to get in the Olympics or anything like that. We just need to be more athletic. That's kind of what our family needs us to be as well, strong and athletic. So I just thought it was really interesting to see how we behave as adults, which is kind of not really what we should be training like.
No, I agree. And I think I'm the same as you. My training, I don't train for anything specific other than to feel strong and healthy. But in recent years, it's been to be ready. It's been, if I had to pick up my daughter and run, could I do it? And so for me, that's kind of what I'm training for, is just to be ready for whatever craziness life's going to throw up. Could I jump out of the way of a car if it came on the path? Or could I run up the stairs and help somebody, or pick someone up off the floor if they've fallen and hurt themselves? It's all those sorts of things. And like you said, we don't really think like that necessarily until it's too late and we're in that situation thinking, oh my God, I can't do this, or I can't move, or So it's fascinating, isn't it?
And that stuff will keep you younger. I know it's difficult because if you haven't trained, to go into power training can be quite dangerous, but there are ways that you can do it and build up at any age. But it should be more of our training style. But we don't. We kind of slow down more. But I guess training is very much still a physical appearance thing rather than a feeling and an ability. It's still a looking thing. But just because you look one way, the best example I ever had, I was at a body exhibition years and years ago, and there was a group of lads walking around the whole day with their shirts off. Incredible shape, incredible. But they came up to do the Dragon Press challenge. I don't know if you've ever seen the Dragon Press challenge. It's a bicep curl to shoulder press, 100 reps, so 50 on each arm, 16 kilos for males, I think, on each arm. You do 100 and then your next person goes. So it's like a relay. These guys actually entered the challenge. They came last. They were the best shape on the stage, incredible shape, but they came last. because there is a huge difference between physical appearance and physical ability. Huge difference.
Yeah.
And we are still very obsessed with how we look. I think people are starting to shift more to feel, but that there is definitely a crossover. 100% there's a crossover, but just having a bit more emphasis on how we feel and perform every day, rather than just worrying about calories and how we look, you actually will see a shift in your physical appearance just by focusing on the other area, rather than fully overwhelming yourself with just how you look. Like, everybody here that's listening is so much more than just how they physically look. Your personality and what you do is so much more than how you look. And I think we do need to start shifting towards that feeling more, which is hard because we can't measure feelings very easily.
No, you can't, and that takes talking and discussing, doesn't it? It takes being open and actually talking about how you're feeling, and not just in a mental sense, but how you're feeling physically and how you. I kind of like to adapt my training, so when I get to know the guys that I train with and what sort of work they do, and then we try to relate movements in the gym to the things that they do in daily life or in their jobs. And then you can see the pennies dropping. They're kind of like, oh yeah, this is going to make me stronger at doing this bit of my work because I'm doing this movement now with you with a bit of load. So it's, I like trying to turn it that way so that they start to realize that it's actually useful for lots of other things, not just how they look or, in the mirror, basically. Yeah. No, fascinating. I could talk about that subject all day long. I want to ask you about your nutrition setup, because obviously that's something that you do, on a sort of professional level. So how do you sort of take care of your nutrition and your routines and make sure that you're fueling yourself well?
It's that evolution. I've tried diets. I've done all different stuff and kind of learned along the way. Whereas my life now, often what I find is if I eat 3 meals a day, I'm all right. Yeah. If I start going into 4, that's kind of a wake up sign of like, what's going on? How come you're consuming more calories now? Because you've been fine on 3. How are you now adding in a snack after lunch or post dinner, something like that? So a lot of people will potentially laugh at this and it gets frowned upon a lot. I have granola most days for breakfast. Why? Because it works for me.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I've had porridge oats and I get hungry at 10:30 and I want to eat more food. I've had omelets, delicious, same thing, hungry. Try bigger portions, throw an extra egg in, same thing. I eat granola, my energy is sustainable, I am full, and I am absolutely fine until lunchtime.
Yeah.
It works for me. Honestly, lunchtimes tend to be actually leftovers more so these days because I've been so busy. But our dinners are always, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10. We do cook. I've got the luxury. I've got a very lovely wife here who's very good at cooking. Which is a huge help. And we tend to. So what used to happen is I would often eat seconds. So now the rule is, no, that's your lunch tomorrow. So if you eat that, you don't have lunch tomorrow. So now I have that deliberately to stop me over consuming, because that was two of my problem areas was seconds and after dinner snacking. They were my two biggest issues. So that eliminates one of them by having lunch the next day. And like I said, those lunches can be varied from Hello Fresh style meals, pastas, rices, stuff like that. I've started cooking homemade wedgies. I know a lot of people who are cooks are probably like, yeah, so what? That's probably the easiest thing you can do. But I'm starting to make those instead of then having chips, because it's a potato. It's just a potato, bit of oil, bit of salt. So just little bits like that. I'm not fancy. I used to try all the fancy stuff and the supplements. Whereas for me now, it's just get the basics right. Just eat whole foods most of the time. And then if you're filling in the gaps with other stuff, that's not your problem if you're over consuming. And again, it's finding the reason you're over consuming. So am I telling everybody to go out and eat granola? No. Obviously there is a sugar content with it, but like I said, I've always been a fueled based person. Probably one of the reasons why I did struggle with my weight in ice hockey, because I wanted to feel energized. I didn't want to feel tired or anything like that. So actually probably being heavier actually helped me perform in some way. It's very difficult to adjust your body in the season. Obviously it's big risks performance wise to do that. But yeah, I'm very much nothing is off the menu.
Yeah.
I just want to know personally and with my clients, if you're over consuming, what is the reason you're over consuming? Because you should be able to eat a chocolate bar and not feel guilty and not gain weight, because a chocolate bar could be like 200 calories. That's not the problem. The problem
No.
is you're having 2 or 3 of them plus wine later. I want to know what that is, and I do the same for
Yeah.
myself. Okay, why have you gone back to the cupboard again tonight? What were you feeling? So yeah, whole foods most of the time, natural foods most of the time. They can be exciting. There's loads of great recipes out there now, but you don't have to restrict yourself to feel great. It's part of our lives today, and if you're doing it, like everyone said, in moderation, not everybody knows what that is. But when you find what that is, and it's just few and far between, it's not a problem.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. I think I'm the same as you. I like to try and strip it back to basics. There's no one size fits all. Everybody's different. Everybody responds differently in terms of how they digest food and how they metabolize their food. So, everyone having the same breakfast, we're not all going to have the same results for the rest of that day. So that's, you've got to do a bit of trial and error and find what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to lean a bit more on the protein side, but I'm not on the protein bandwagon, because again, that doesn't always work for everybody. Because some people, it can make them feel a bit sluggish and they're not feeling the energy right. So you've got to suss it out and get the balance right for yourself. And then, I like you sound like a bit of a 90-10 kind of rule around, keeping it whole food, keeping it natural if you can. And that's the way to lean, isn't it? I always talk to my clients about being more optimal more of the time than suboptimal, but you still have the suboptimal stuff when you want it. Because, what's the point if you're going to restrict yourself and eliminate something? And it's similar to what we were talking about earlier about eliminating things in terms of your physical setup as well. If you eliminate a food, particularly one that used to be a favorite, you're probably going to run into trouble because, you're missing that thing. So I think it's just about recognizing it. What's it doing for you? Maybe learning a bit about the calories, just so so you've got that information, and then digging into the reason. Why is my head in the cupboard at 10 p.m? What's gone wrong in the rest of the day that's led me to be here now? And those are the conversations I think to have, aren't they? So you can just recognize what's going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the situation. I'm 13 years in the industry, but I'm decades of challenges and things that I've had to overcome, which is completely different to anybody else. I'm the only person who's lived my life. You're the only person that's lived yours, and I wasn't taking those lessons when I was younger. I've taken them now because I understand it, but I wasn't taking them at the time. And I'm in the position that I am now because it's just evolved. Half of the week, if not more, dinners are lunches. I'm cool with that. My missus makes a mean jambalaya, rice and veg and meats and all sorts, super filling. Fine, plate me up dinner and lunch, and if I can have it for dinner again the next day, let's go for it, because I might not have it then for another few weeks. So I'm not concerned about having the same meal twice. For me, like I said, most of it is fuel. For me, food tastes great and I enjoy it, but it's not a luxury to me, and it's also not a means end to losing weight. It's a fuel-based thing. Every day is a performance, and I want to feel great every day, and my food is a huge thing behind that, along with hydration, along with sleep. So if I'm eating the stuff that I know works for me, then that's great. But like I said, it's tested, right? I was having a chat with a client this morning. He was talking about in the past spells of gout and certain things that triggers him, and broccoli, Brussels sprouts. He said a Savoy sausage. Like, unless you have these things and you kind of go, wow, I feel great, or no, I don't, you will never know. But a lot of people don't like that failing element, and they beat themselves up over it rather than going, wow, okay, I've just found that out. That's cool. That's really useful information. Now let's move forward. We kind of try and avoid that. Oh, you're an idiot. Why have you done that? You've messed up. The brain will hate that. It will not like that at all. It likes to be rewarded. It likes to be complimented. And we have to start speaking to ourselves more positively.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, and I'm a big believer in, again, using, when you cook a meal, we're the same here. We cook big, but we'll serve up our plates for that dinner, and then I'll put the serving into a pot so that it's gone. It's no longer available as an extra either, because I'll be in there with a spoon otherwise, because you make good tasty food, you know. And so so you can just dip into it. So we tend to try and serve the pot as well. That's ready. That's lunch tomorrow. Done. Already done. It's gone now. So I sort of put it out of my mind, and it's not going to become a snack or an add-on. I used to chat with a client a couple of years ago who we were digging into these sorts of problems, and I found that in their house, the wife did all the cooking and meal preparation, and he did all the tidying away. But during the tidying away, he was taking leftovers off of plates at all the meals.
It adds up.
So I was like, wow, that adds up over a week. You know, that's a lot. It's a lot of extra food. So we came up with hashtag Don't Be the Bin, and we were encouraging that to go in the food bin. You know.
Yeah, I like that.
But you just and it becomes if it just becomes a habit, you just sort of keep doing it, and you don't even realize you're doing it. So it takes that moment, doesn't it, of realization, and like, oh right, yeah, that's actually quite a lot over a week, over a month. It's a lot of extra calories to take on board.
But that's where awareness and creating a pause comes in, is that pausing to recognize what you're doing, not acting on impulse, but the awareness to stop it. Right. Obviously, if you have a coach, they can see that for you, as long as you're being open and honest with them, because most people don't buy the deluxe package where we follow them around 24 hours a day. Most people can't afford that. So you have to be open and honest, but we can then see that point. But self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools you could have. But I know that could be a really ego hitting thing. It can really hurt when you kind of realize you've been making these mistakes. And that's why most people avoid owning up to it, because your ego gets bruised, and the ego's meant to keep you safe. But ultimately, in most scenarios, it doesn't keep you safe at all. So most people avoid it rather than going, oh, wow, God, I didn't even realize that. Okay, now I've got something to work with. This is exciting. And it's a shift in perception on stuff like that. But I always say self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools you can learn. It is a learnable skill. You just have to know where to do it. You know, I used to say to myself, I used to go to the cupboard and I used to say to myself, you're not hungry. And then I would also say, no, you're right, I'm not hungry. And then, well, why are you eating? That's a very good question. I don't know. And I'd literally have that conversation.
Have a conversation, yeah.
But it worked. It worked. It's like, tell me why you want to eat then, and then we can eat if you want to, but you can't tell me. And it was that awareness and catching that and saying that conversation over and over again that took the second problem away from me, which was the after dinner snacks. I still have some, but I used to have it nightly. It used to be habitually dinner finished, sit down, extra food. And those share bags of chocolates are not share bags at all. They're yours, and they're about 500 calories. And I would eat one every night.
You're going to demolish a lot.
Easy, within seconds. They don't take long at all. But that's what it was, and I had to find a way to raise my awareness to go, okay, well, what is the reason you're having this? Notice at no point did I say you can't have it, because then I would completely ignore the conversation and carry on. That's just how your brain works. You crave more of what you can't have. I would just have a genuine adult conversation with myself, and the returns was insane.
I think there's something to be said for actually saying your thoughts out loud as well, because we can kid ourselves all day long if we keep it inside. You know, I know it comes to awareness, and you do get habits, and there's a bit of unconscious habit sort of routines going on, but you still are aware of what you're doing. But it's in here. So I think there's a lot to be said to verbalizing and actually saying it out loud as if someone else could hear it. That means more to us, and we take action on it usually. So it's a great. We're
less likely to let a stranger down than we are ourselves, which is mad. Crazy. If you told the Sainsbury's checkout lady your results, you're less likely to let her down than yourself. Like, that is insane. So actually verbalizing it, and that's why so many people put it on social media, right, and have accountability pages. There's a lot of those aren't sustainable. They do end up breaking because you're constantly relying on other people. You have to learn how to hold yourself accountable, but that's why people do it, because you're more inclined to at least start and get going if somebody else is. You think you're owing somebody else.
No, definitely. Right, we've whizzed past. We're on 34 minutes now. So, this time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I I want to ask you then, before we sort of wrap up, have you got, what are your sort of daily non-negotiables in terms of, you know, your sleep, your routines and all those sorts of things? Have you got a set of kind of non-negotiable actions or routines that you kind of adhere to?
Yeah, I work with a daily power list, which is 3 to 5
Okay.
achievable tasks that you're not currently doing. It's something that completely transformed my life years ago when I came across personal development, again, during lockdown. And I still use it today. Today, my list looks a lot more business-like than it does health-wise, because my non-negotiables aren't really non-negotiables, because they're just getting done because of the work that I've done over the years. So, you know, I was obsessed with the daily step count, but now I'm on a yearly target. So as long as I'm moving consistently throughout the year at the same amount, I'm pretty happy. My water it's consistent. I know if I'm hydrated or if I'm not. Again, nutrition-based stuff it's pretty consistent with me. You know, routine is great. So, you know, in terms of my health, the activity level and just keeping a standard level is I'm very content with and very happy with. Would I like more? Yes, hence why it's becoming back a priority. Now my time's freed up with the kids going back to school, and I do actually have created more time. So that will then be more of a non-negotiable that will need to be set, because it's a new habit I'm forming. So then I'm going to need to look at what days I'm going to work out, when, why. So that's the biggest thing to take away is non-negotiables are great, but you want to do it to the point that it becomes habitual, then it's not a thing anymore, and then you can move your focus elsewhere. So standard health wise pretty good, but will I have to start creating if I want to push in my physical goal now? Then yes, I will have to set that standard of how many sessions I'll do a week and how long for.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for this. I'm just going to quickly check. I don't think we've seen any comments come through live, so I'll have a quick look in case anything's popped up on the LinkedIn page. If people want to kind of get in touch with you, have the ability to work with you, see what you're all about, what's the best way for them to do that?
I spend most of my waking hours on LinkedIn. You probably see on the bottom there, just Shaun Thompson or the Behavior Change Coach. I have a little brain logo that then helps the page stand out a little bit more, or just the website is the behaviorchangecoach.co.uk. They're probably the best two places. I am elsewhere. I'm tried to be everywhere, YouTube and Instagram, but they're probably the two best places you can find me.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. So, and I highly recommend that anyone who's watching goes and has a look at Shaun's stuff and connects with him and follows him, because he's constantly posting motivational, inspirational and fun things online. So absolutely worth that follow. For myself, I just want to mention that I'm running one of my free 5-day coaching events on the 16th of September. And that's for dads who are kind of thinking about making some changes to their health and not really sure how best to go about it, or maybe they've tried and failed a few times in the past and don't really know what to do next. So it's a bit of a work over a week, very simple task just to start you to get to write a bit of a plan of action and figure out a way forward. So I'm going to be running that from the 16th of September this month. So Shaun, thank you very much once again for joining me. Really, really enjoyed this chat, and maybe we can have another one again in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was good fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks a lot. Bye.